Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we please remain standing, open with a prayer. Lord, you are the source of all life and love. Let this nation be a place of goodness and opportunity, a haven for those who are lonely, a sanctuary of peace in the midst of the storm. We ask a special blessing on those being impacted by Hurricane Matthew. Keep them safe and restore their lives back to normal. We live in a troubled world, Lord. We ask as the Father of all to watch over our first responders and military. Keep them safe until they return home to their loved ones. Be with our leaders and ask that what they do are for each and every one of us and not for their selfish means. Be with us as we are approaching election day as a nation, and we should look to our motto, "In God we trust," as we go to the voting booth. Because it is not just a motto, it implies for us motivation and a method. It is a way of looking at our past and where we want to go in the future. Lord, we want to keep you in our daily lives because we can't travel this path on earth without you. Give us the courage to stand against those who attempt to steal our freedom. Let us reflect the kindness of your heart and forgiveness day by day. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. We lost one of our board members because they moved out of the community, Amy Bush.
Oh, really?
So now all the board members are here tonight that have been appointed and sworn in. Are there any comments from any of the members? Shirley?
No.
Amy? Rebecca? You're all quiet tonight. Fire Chief, you got any comments?
Good evening, everyone. I just have a couple. It's not very often. I sit on a lot of promotional process from different departments, and a lot of times as raiders, the fire chief gets bad news at the end of these interviews saying a lot of areas that the people need to improve in. And I had a chance to talk to our raiders after our firefighters went through the lieutenants and captains process. And it's nice to be able to be the fire chief and hear those guys just blew the interviews away. They were all solid in their interviews, and so it was good news. So our firefighters and the men and women that went through this did a really good job with the fire scenarios they had and the questions. So I just wanted to add that because the fire chief doesn't get that news all the time. Because I sat on a lot of those interview boards, and a lot of times they'll say there's a common problem amongst the people that they've interviewed, and I didn't get any of that. So it's kind of a proud moment for our fire department to hear that news from, and these people are represented from, they were chiefs from 3 different fire departments, so it's kind of nice to hear that.
Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, you should have had the minutes from our meeting on the, get to them here, on the August the 4th. Any comments on the minutes? Anyone? Do I have a motion?
I so that we approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of August the 4th of 2016 as written.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Ayes have it. Minutes are approved for August 4th of 2016. Okay, any old business? Any of the board members, any old business? Fire chief, any old business? Okay, new business. Chief? Since you didn't have any old business.
Okay, I think you all have packets in front of you that I'm just asking tonight that the Mayor Commission certify the list that you've been given. I also have a representative here from IPSP that was our third party that administered, or helped the fire department administer this. So at this time, I'm just asking that this board certify the list that you've been given.
Okay.
I move that we certify these.
Second.
The captains and the lieutenants list?
Yes, both, I'm sorry, both captains and lieutenants' promotion
We got
lists.
a motion for both the captain and lieutenant promotion list to be certified as presented to us. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. So we have a motion for approval of the captain and lieutenant promotion list as we presented to us. It's been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Ayes have it. Motion carried. Lists are approved. Okay, Chief?
Okay, on the second, approval to promote, I'm asking that you give me the top three names on the captain's list as well as the lieutenant's list as approval to promote. And just to let this board know, I'm not skipping over anybody. And if time comes up for promotion, there's any type of criminal or big type of discipline problem, I would consider that time. But at this time, they all worked hard to get on this list, and there's a year of probation, so I'm going to take them in order as they appear on your certification list. But at this time, I would ask to have the top three names from the lieutenants and also top three names from the captain's list to promote.
3 off of each list.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually, I'm asking for the top three names, but here in a minute, I'm going to,
Get to the
So you need to
promotion,
know who number 1 is on the captain's list and number 1 and 2 on the lieutenant's list.
yes,
I'll bring this forward after the board votes.
okay.
All right, the fire chief has asked that we approve the first 3 on both the lieutenant list and the captain list that he can select for promotion in the order that they appear there. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we certify the top 3 names on both the captain and the
Thank you,
lieutenant
Rebecca.
list.
Is there a second? Amy, you second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to certify the first 3 on both the lieutenant list and the captain list.
We just certified, the motion is for the approval?
For the
Approval, right,
Okay. Okay.
No, you certified the full list. Now you're certifying the top 3
Top 3
names.
Top 3 names.
Then there will be another motion for the actual promotion once I've shared those names with the chief.
Carry on.
So we have a motion to certify the top 3 on both the lieutenant and the captain list, and we have a second for that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Okay, motion as the ayes have it, motion carried. So the top 3 on both lists have been certified for promotion. Chief?
At this time, tonight, I would like off the captain's list to promote Steve Lazan as of tonight. And do you want to do these separate?
Yes.
Okay, so off the captain's list, I asking to promote Stephen Lazan, who is the first on the captain's list.
I mean,
Do these separately then?
yes.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Rebecca, make a motion? Okay, got a
I'll
second?
second.
Charlotte? Okay, we got a motion, a second to approach Stephen Lazan from the captain's list, who's the top of the list we just certified. Any questions? Any comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. The promotion of Stephen Lazan is approved.
The second, I would like to promote Jeffrey Ballack off the lieutenant's list as of tonight, and he shows as number 1 on that list.
Move to approve the
Amy
promotion.
made a motion to approve Jeffrey Ballard to be promoted from the lieutenant list, who's the number 1 on the list we just certified. We got a second.
Second.
Rebecca second that. So we have a motion and a second. Any question, any comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. promotion of Jeff Ballard.
And I've got one more. And this is because it's a different date, and the reason for this is, commission members, is that we don't promote to a float list. There's going to be another seat opening when the bid comes out, so I'm asking the second person on that list, who's Robert McCann, be promoted as of November 7th.
Which position?
It's the number 2 person, it's the lieutenant, he's number 2 on that list, but the first 2 we did was effective tonight, that the second lieutenant would be effective, November 5th.
So basically, the lieutenant that's being promoted to captain creates another vacancy.
There you go, exactly.
Okay.
But it's not open at this time.
It's not open at this time.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody understand what the situation is? Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
We got a motion to promote Robert McCann on the 5th of November.
When the new position is available. I said when the position becomes available.
Right, when the position comes available, right. Is that the motion? We
Yeah,
got a
correct.
second.
Second.
Got a second by Shirley, okay. I've got a motion and a second to promote Robert McCann on 5 November when the position becomes available. Any question, any comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All 3 ayes. There's no one opposing, so Chief, your promotion has been approved, okay?
Board members, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this point now, we've gone through the certification of promotion list, we did the approval to promote, and now we have a request for appeal. Council?
Yes, I forwarded to all of you the request for an appeal to be heard, and I believe Ms. Wojciechowski is here representing her client, if she'd like to make a brief presentation of her request.
I don't know that this is actually an appeal at this point in time because we have,
Could you speak up, please? It's hard to hear.
does this help or should I just shout? Because I can do both.
That's good.
I don't know that this is technically an appeal yet because we
A
are
request for an appeal.
presenting a petition to correct the hire date of my client, Jeff Dulligan. I have numerous copies of this, and I don't know if you've already received these copies or not. If I may, I have more, so there's 4 of them.
We'll do the same.
I have 10 of them.
This is the wrong one.
Now we need,
Is that,
now we need 2 more.
oh, is that the right?
Yeah.
Okay, oh, I see what he's doing. Okay, gotcha.
And if we could, I'll try to take you through this as expeditiously as possible. I am aware, having had some communications with the city attorney, what the recommendation is, and I appreciate her graciousness in consulting with me in advance. But we do sincerely believe that my client has redress here. When last I met you folks, well, we were here on some paperwork regarding a petition for the to be accepted in the process for the promotions.
Right.
The court determined on other grounds that was inappropriate, and therefore we were never able to address the issue of his hire date because that was done. And part of the appeal would have been the hire date, but since he was excluded from the process on other grounds, we never got to the point of discussing the facts regarding his actual hire date. And therefore, we are presenting this information today to discuss specifically that point. The crux of the matter is, and I understand that back in, I think, 2004, Mr. Dulligan had presented a request to the board. I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 of you were on the board at that time. But it was in essence a different board. The information that was presented in 2004 did not include a document which is crucial to my client's position, which, for whatever reason, was not in his packet of all of the documents that he was ever given access to through the administration. He went and got his personnel file back in 2004. The document that we are talking about today was not in that packet.
The only reason my client ever knew that the document in question existed was when I sent him to go get the rest of his information regarding the appeal on being excluded from the process. While he was doing that, the town clerk asked him, actually it might have been, it was Sherry, I'm sorry, asked him, do you want to see your other file? So for the first time in better than 10 years, all of a sudden he found out that there is this mysterious secret other file. Now I don't know whether it was really secret or not, but the only file that he's ever had access to or that he was ever told any information ever existed in was the file that's kept in the administrative offices for the fire department. Lo and behold, there was another file, which in essence has exactly the same information in it as that which is kept in the administrative file, with one glaring exception. And I have included that for you in your packet. That letter, which is dated June 4th of 2002, which was not, and as of, I believe, unless they've now suddenly put it in there, has never been in his personnel file, shows that on June 4th, 2002, then Chief Mark DeLong recommended that all of these gentlemen that were listed on this letter should have been listed their hire date as of June 16th, 2002. June 16th. We're only talking 2 days, but to my client, that's important. On June 16th, 2002, he should have been listed as his hire date. There was a question that may or may not arise today, I don't know. But back during his hiring process, he had to have corrective eye surgery before PERF would certify him. He had that eye surgery and was certified, if you'll look at Exhibit B, he was actually certified way back on 5/20 of 2002. So that was all done before he was ever actually started his work. He was told at the previous hearing in 2004, well, PERF determines your hire date, and that is simply not true. I have included another document from PERF that was dated June 21st of 2002 that specifically requests that the fire chief tell them what his hire date was supposed to be. He was told, for some reason, that his hire date was June 18th. Again, we're only talking a 2-day difference. That's all my client is asking, is that the correct hire date that was originally listed, that was signed and certified, should be the date that we go by. That's all he's asking for. So saying that PERF determines your hire date is not true, because on page 2 of that letter, which was dated June 21st, it says specifically, please advise PERF of the date the member was hired. They are asking somebody to verify from the fire department what's his hire date. Should have been June 16th, as we've discovered by this newly discovered evidence. On June 18th, the fire chief sent Mr. Dulligan a letter telling him that he was hired as of June 18th. That should have been June 16th. Every document that my client signed thereafter that they would try to have you say, well, he's accepted that date because he signed all these other dates. That was the date that he was told. He did not know any different, that his hire date should have been the same as the rest of his class until April 18th of 2016. That's injustice. It is the board's opportunity today to correct that error. They can't say that he wasn't certified by PERF. We've got the documents from PERF showing that he was accepted back in May. They already knew back on May 20th, and it was accepted on May 31st, and the dates are there on the exhibits, that, yeah, PERF, it shows that they received it May 31st of 2002. This was all done before June. This was all done so that he could have and should have had the correct hire date with the rest of the class. I don't know whether it was a typographical error or if there was some other reason. I don't know at this point in time why that particular document that is very clear on what his hire date should have been was not in his file all of these years. I don't know. I'm asking the board, regardless of what the other recommendations are, to take a look at the documents and just correct it. Just set it back to June 16th of 2002. He's not asking at this point in time for any other remedy other than to have his correct hire date listed. Will that have some impact on his seniority? Well, by 2 days. Will it change any of his pay? Probably not. The only thing it's going to change will be 2 days as far as his retirement date and 2 days as far as his seniority. That's all we're asking for. If, unfortunately, and I don't know how to present this without it sounding really inappropriate, but because there's a law in Indiana that says that there's just 180 days of a tort claims notice, that we only have 180 days, which means that, like on October 18th, we have to do something. And I also understand that if the board decides unfavorably against my client, then he has to, if he decides he wants to appeal it, he has to appeal it within 30 days. That 30 days will be beyond the 180 days, so I have documents here. If we have to do some other form of redress, I don't mean for it to sound like we're trying to be overbearing, but I just have to comply with certain statutory time requirements. So depending on the commission's decision today, I may or may not have to serve other documents, and I just want to clarify that I'm not trying to be a horrendous overbearing attorney that I've been accused of before. But it's just really strictly because we have some time constraints that I have to follow, so I'm not committing malpractice. But the simple and obvious thing would be to avoid all of that and correct his hire date based on the documents, and then we can all just get about our business. Do you have any questions for me?
Where was this file other than with the administration office of the fire department?
It was kept separately with the city of Lawrence. No?
Where?
No?
It was, that document that he saw was in his personnel file. If it's the one I gave you, it was in your personnel file.
He had to request a separate, hold on, he had to request a separate file, and I don't know if I included that with you or not, from, yeah, I did include the email, from Kimberly Fannin, Kimberly Fannin is the young lady who had a separate file that Mr. Dulligan had to request in writing. He requested it on April 13th, and you'll have that attached to the back of your packet. And she then presented him with the file on April 18th, and on April 18th is when he first discovered this other dated letter. He went diligently through his personnel file that was kept within the fire department, and it was not in there. It was in the other file that he. So,
Why was it kept in another file?
I don't know. That's an excellent question. We would love to have an answer for that. I don't know.
I can clarify that Kimberly Fannin was our previous HR benefits coordinator. So there would be a separate employee file within the HR department than there would be in the fire department.
Oh, it's separate from the, his personnel file for the fire department. Fire department. Okay.
The city's file.
Yeah, well, okay, then I guess there's your answer. So,
So that date of hire was different in one file from the other. According to her, it is. Yeah. Right.
yeah, the notice that we have, the letters that you would see in here, the date of hire that he was told that was in the fire department file was dated June 18th, 2002, and it says June 18th, 2002. That's the notice that he got. He never got the June 4th letter that shows the list with his hire date should have been June 16th. There are two different letters.
So before we get too deep into the substantive question of the hire date, the issue the board needs to address is really a procedural one. I looked back through the previous Merit Commission notes, and the appeal was heard on February 5th of 2004. To quote those minutes, President Harris began the appeals process presented by firefighter Jeff Dullahan. All members to testify were sworn in by President Harris. Testimony heard, discussion followed. Motion made by Board Member Miller to approve the appeal, no second. Motion failed. Motion made by Vice President Jessup to deny appeal, seconded by Board Member Fowler. Motion carried. Board members explained the reason for their vote. March 4th, 2004, the minutes reflect that the denial letter was sent to Jeff Dullahan. April 1st of 2004, Vice President Jessup asked about Dullahan's appeal. Chief DeLong advised he has not been notified of an appeal. So within the trial rules, there's a 1-year appeals process even to reopen a case. The other issue we have is they're trying to reopen this case based on newly discovered evidence. In order to do that under Indiana case law, there's a 9-part test that has to be met. One, they have to establish that the evidence was not available at the first trial, that it is material and relevant, that it is not cumulative, that it is not merely impeaching, that it is not privileged or incompetent, that due diligence was used to discover it in time for the first trial, that the evidence is worthy of credit, that it can be produced upon a retrial of the case, and that it will probably produce a different result. So the sole document we're discussing here was a letter from the fire chief to the Board of Works making a request. It's not an official hiring document of any kind. My advice to you would be that even if you did hear it and you heard this evidence, that it would not supersede the documentation we have from PERF, signed off under penalties of perjury, that this information is accurate to the best of his knowledge. There's also been no presentation of due diligence having been done, that any kind of discovery request was made and the city withheld this information. It would have been available had it been sought out accurately. So I don't believe that there are legal grounds to reopen a case that has already been heard by this board. So regardless of how you feel about the underlying facts, I don't think it's appropriate for the Merit Commission to rehear a case that it already heard 12 years ago. So that is my advice to the board. Do you have any questions for me?
Besides that, it was voted on at that meeting, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes,
It was decided and no appeal was taken.
okay.
But they did not explain why they would not hear the appeal?
No, they did.
No, an
Shoot.
appeal would have been filed in a superior court, not here.
And also, if he had had the letter available to him that he just got this spring, could that have changed the outcome possibly of that meeting?
That is what petitioner would need to argue, that that one piece of document would be persuasive enough to have changed the board's mind.
I guess another question I would have, and I don't know if this is appropriate, but all of these other people listed on this June 4th letter, do we know what their hire date is in their files?
June 16th.
Chief,
All the others, this is June 16, and that's, we have checked that against our fire department records, and that's when I checked with PERF, that's when I got this letter that was signed by PERF and firefighter Dullahan.
Okay.
so the others were hired as of the 16th. There was some holdup in PERF, and he was hired as of the 18th. Again, we're looking at documentation that's 14 years old, so
Right.
we're going off of the record as it existed then, and it's much more likely to me that the board in 2004 had more accurate evidence and memories of what would have been presented then than you would now, looking back.
Obviously, we would argue differently, and I do think that my client has met all of the requirements. He has done due diligence in trying to get his records. It's not his fault that there was some separate record that he was never advised of that he had no idea of a file that exists. He did go to try to get his records in 2004. The fact that everybody else had that hire date except him, and the fact that PERF actually had already responded back in May 20th and approved him, that argument to me fails, because in 2004, he didn't have the correct information. And it was never in his file until he just discovered it in April. And I understand that you're probably going to go with the recommendation of the attorney, and I respect that. But I really think that you need to think long and hard about this, because there was an injustice done, whether it was clerical or whether there was some deliberate reason. I don't know. That will take discovery. And the argument that he should have done due diligence, he was supposed to hire an attorney and sue the city and do, like, subpoena all these records. He thought he did. He thought he got the records he was supposed to. He assumed that all the records were complete in his personnel file. So to say that he should have done something different, he did everything he knew he was supposed to do. He checked his personnel file. He thought that was the end of it, until all of a sudden he finds these records now. Now he finds these records, and we're being told today that everybody else had the same hire date.
What was the first day that he actually showed up to start working?
He was told in the letter that I provided to show up on June 18th.
Okay.
So he did what he was told to do.
And I didn't know if...
And I don't know that anybody else actually started any other training before then, but if his hire date should have been the same as everybody else's.
Started on the 17th. No, they started on the 17th. It was a Monday. The 16th is a Sunday, the 17th is a Monday,
Okay.
and the 18th.
Okay,
is-
Jeff, but my point is, it doesn't matter. If they listed his hire date as of the 16th, and they told him to show up on the 18th, and he didn't know about this other document because it wasn't ever sent to him, and he didn't discover it, even though I believe he did what he was supposed to do, trying to find these documents. It's not his fault that there was a separate file that he didn't know about. And the issue about, well, PERF doesn't set the hire dates. The fire department sets the hire dates. The hire date was listed in that document that it should have been the 16th.
Well, the reason I asked about, like, what day you actually you showed up your first day of work, I guess I'm trying to understand why your hire date would be set as a different day, regardless of what you were, not told or anything. That was the first day you showed up to work. If I start a job, I don't get paid for 2 days,
Well, you wouldn't
I don't
get
get
paid, but
credit.
the hire date
But
would make a
I wouldn't
difference.
get credit for 2 days before if my first day of work was supposed to be.
Everybody started on the 17th, though, so your argument there is not a very good one.
Well, I'm not trying to argue, I'm just trying to understand. That's,
The
They all
hire-
started on the 17th.
Jeff,
Today is the
let me do my job.
Yes, ma'am.
so that's just
The
what
hire date and when
I'm,
they started was different for everybody. Even the guys who were listed as their hire date on the 16th didn't start till arguably the 17th or 18th. The only point of the 16th is it's going to go back to seniority issues. And they all should have been listed for the 16th because that's what was listed on that document. I guess that's all I have.
So what the board needs to vote on is whether you are willing to reopen the appeal to hear the substantive arguments.
Are there any other questions? Of either council? Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Is the motion is to approve or deny the appeal? Is that the motion?
you would like to make.
I move that we deny the appeal.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the appeal as requested by council for firefighter Duggan. Is this a ballot vote? Or
If
he
you would
votes for it?
like to request one, you can. You can call for a roll call vote. You can raise hands, however you'd like to handle it, Mr. President.
Okay. We will call for a roll call vote unless there's some objection. Okay, any objection by the commission members? Okay, you have a motion on the floor to reject the appeal, okay, as you just heard from firefighters' council. And we have a second, okay? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I have one aye.
Aye.
I have two ayes. I have an abstention so far. All those opposed signified by saying, I oppose.
I oppose.
So I have two yays and one objection, okay? So the chair votes in order to get majority, right? I vote for the motion of rejection, okay? So that gives us 3 and 1 opposed, right?
Right.
Okay. So the appeal request is rejected, okay?
And Lisa, I'll have them sign an order to that effect in case you need it to
Oh.
preserve your right.
I already actually anticipated that. So I have prepared here a notice of tort claim, and I need to serve the board. And this is separate from the appeal that you probably also take to the Superior Court or Circuit Court of Marion County. But this I have to serve now, and again, like I said, it's just because I'm running out of time on a 180-day notice. How many copies do you need?
Really just one, but
No,
I can give 4.
figured if they wanted to see it, I made a minimum copies, since they've been sitting.
Since the trees are retired.
Kind of listening to all of this, so many more do you need here?
This is 1, 4 more, 5 if you have it.
Oh, I have.
Board secretary.
Plenty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these actually should go together, but I didn't see them all at one. 4, 5. All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Just to clarify, Mr. President, even though you all have a copy of that, you do not need to take any individual action. City Legal will handle the tort claim.
Okay.
I'll give you, even though we don't have to take any action on it, I will give you time to read this, okay, before we, in case there's any questions.
Mr. President, I think they may be waiting for us to vacate the room for another, I believe they're waiting for us to vacate the room for another meeting
Okay.
tonight.
Everyone had a chance to read it? And so, you know, it's filed against the city of Lawrence, so we cannot take any action on it tonight, okay? All right,
There are no questions then. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you, Counselor.
You're on good of the order.
Huh?
Good of the order comments?
Good of the order comments. Does anybody have any good of the order comments? Chief? Chief is missing in action.
Yeah, step out for training.
Okay. Anyone else have any good of the order? Okay.
Congratu-
Do I have a motion? It's a non-debatable motion.
I will say congratulations to those who were just promoted this evening.
Correct. Would the two that's being promoted please stand? And let's give them a round of applause.
Should we congratulate the gentleman for November the 5th as well?
On 5 November? When is our next meeting? Is it 5 November?
I'm not sure. Might be.
Has been set yet?
No.
No, it'd be like the 3rd.
Third.
3rd. Okay. All right, let's do it anyway, okay? Is he present? Well,
After all that math we did, come on.
Somebody stand up.
okay. Can we have a proxy stand up in place? All right? Please pass it on, okay? All right, is any other business, new business?
No, that was it. I'm
All
good.
right, do I have a motion? It's non-debatable now.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion for adjournment, I got a second.
So
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carried, we're adjourned, okay?